Hey everybody, and welcome back to Cam's Flies. I'm Cam. I apologize for my YouTube short. I had misnamed this fly the field mouse, and it is actually the Whitlocks Mouserat. So we're going to be tying this up today on the Gamakatsu stinger hook. This is the B10S on a size 1. Now I'll be putting a little bit of Zap-A-Gap on the hook shank. This is just to secure the thread that we'll be using. It's a GSP thread. It's really slippery on the hook, so I like to secure it with some glue. The thread we'll be using is a Veevus GSP in 150 denier in the color white. So I lay down a nice little thread base here and clip my tag end. I use some serrated scissors for GSP. GSP is very hard to cut, I found, with regular scissors. So I use these serrated ones. These are called copter flies. These work pretty well. So if you're working with GSP and you're struggling trying to cut the thread with regular scissors, then go ahead and give these a try, or any other serrated scissors, really. You can see it cut through so easily. Now you add onto that thread base, you may have a little bit of excess glue squeezing out, but you can come by and wipe it off with a paper towel. And for the back end of our fly, we'll be using a dubbing material. It could be done in really any color. I chose a dry fly and a Baetis tan. You could even do a hot spot for this back end if you want to get real silly. But this is what I went with. So all I do is just build up a nice little dubbing ball on the back end. And when I go to put my tail material on, it gives it a little bit of a lift. This is a craft foam that I got from Michael's. This is what I'll be using for my tail material. I tapered it to the tip, and I am now measuring it 2 hook shank lengths to get the proper length, or the length that I like at least. And get it nice and secure, and it may want to move around on you. I find it helps me to throw a wrap around the foam, and then in front of the foam, and then around the foam. You can do any adjustments that you need to do to get it positioned just right. This is some more glue. This is a thin Zap-A-Gap. It's a lot thinner consistency. And just spread it around all over the hook shank wherever you're going to be trying to secure your foam in at. And then snip your excess away. I snip it away about 2 hook eye lengths behind the hook eye, and then secure it down really well. And this deer hair I'll be using is from Creative Angler. It's in a white color. I got this in a package of a variety package. I think there was about 16 colors in it. It was like just under $20 on Amazon. But you come in on the top of the hook shank and spin it down to the bottom, and use your finger to keep that hair on the lower half of the shank the best you can. And the purpose of this is the white fibers are going to be used as the belly material for this fly. So you want to just maintain that low profile with this deer hair. You can go ahead and do your best to try and spread the fibers on each side of the hook shank so that way they're not wrapping over it. And then come through with your thread, up, weave through the fibers, and then up and over, right to the front of the hair. Get some securing wraps right in front. And use your rotary function vise to flip your vise upside down to keep it in place. And for the top part of our fly, we'll be using a Hareline Mule deer hair. Be using it for the top part of the mouse, or the wing, if you will. And you want to make sure you get all this under fur out of the coarser fibers. Just makes your life a whole lot easier. Take your time getting it all out. You have to do it with each bunch. The mule deer hair and the white deer hair as well. This pattern can take some time. To give you an idea, it took me just under 2 hours to tie this pattern. I sped things up a little bit with this video only being just under a half an hour. So once you get all that under fur cleared out, you can come in. Oh, actually, this part right here, you really don't even have to do. I just wanted the least amount of hair in my way as possible. So this hair is going to be trimmed up in the end quite a bit more. So I just trimmed off as much as I could to, move around these hairs a little bit easier with my thread. So once your top layer or top chunk of hair is ready, you should throw a layer of glue down where your hair is going to be applied. And then apply your hair and come through with 2 loose thread wraps. And then cinch down your deer hair. Bring it up and around and try to avoid trapping fibers, trapping them in the laying down position. You want everything standing up. So now you have 2 different colors of deer hair here, and you want to keep them separated because that top portion, the butt ends of the deer hair, are going to be trimmed off. We're leaving all of the white deer hair for now. This is a bit tedious. You got to take your time right here. My first 2 attempts at this pattern were some very sorry attempts. I tried to get a little too hasty with some of my cleanup and my wrapping, and my wraps were just a bit funky. I had trapped too many fibers, and so you really just want to take your time. Taking your time, patience is key. Here's another belly section. You do the same as before, 2 loose wraps, cinch it down and spin it on the low end, the bottom half of the hook shank. Maintain that low profile. Weaving through the fibers, not trapping them. Get some nice securing wraps. And every time you're doing this, you're trying to just build a nice platform for your top layer of hair to sit on. So you want it to be nice and tight. Working with these fibers can be pretty tricky when you're trying to pack them back, but I do have a Stonfo hair packer here that I'm using now, and I should have used a few moments earlier. And some more glue, another layer of hair. The more hair you got on there, it gets harder and harder, but you just take your time. I can't say that enough. What I found is a little easier is I keep when I'm tying in my white fibers, I hold a shorter chunk or a shorter length of fibers out of the tip of my fingers when I tie them in than I do with the brown fibers. That way, when I go to try and grab the brown fibers, they're a lot easier because they're longer. They stick out further than the white ones. Another trick is the bodkin really helps trying to separate these fibers. If you leave that butt end messy, it just leaves too much room for wiggle, and your hairs are probably going to come loose. Get that wrapped up nice and tight. Ready for another layer of belly material. You're going to have some fibers falling out on you. It's okay. Just work through it. This is a messy process. Trust the process. A little close-up of it. Kind of get a better idea of what I'm doing at the hook. Another dab of glue and another layer of wing material for the mouse pattern. I think this will be the last section for the body. After we trim this, so we will be moving on to our ears, which is the same material as our tail material. This is craft foam that I got from Michael's. I just cut some little ears out. There's a rough side and a smooth side. We're going to glue the rough side. That'll be facing back. And the smooth side will be facing forward. We'll apply that to the hook shank and secure it down. And wipe away any excess glue. Now we're going to be spinning deer hair for our head. And we just do 2 loose wraps. And cinch it down and then spin. Try not to trap any fibers. And pack it back. And make sure your hook is properly secured in your vise so you don't have any accidents. Come in with another clump. Cinch and spin. Now when you start running out of hook, you can use a smaller clump. Your clumps don't always have to be the same size. You pack it back, and you see here I'm kind of running out of hook shank. So my next clump I use here is a bit smaller. Cinch and spin. And this will be my last clump here. And now I just push all the fibers back. They don't want to cooperate, so I might come in with a half hitch. Those things are a little messy there. Just get things tied off. To get the tie off started, because I really want to make sure this head is secured. And pack it nice and tight. Come in with a whip finish. And then another half hitch. Clip my GSP free. And then a little bit of Zappa Gap, the thin stuff. And you want to fluff up your fur right before your trimming stage. This is my Stonfo hair trimmer. Thing's pretty sweet. It's adjustable. You can adjust the curve on your blade. So I'm going to start with the underside of the fly, and I have my blade fairly straight. You want to keep this underside straight. It helps with keeping your fly sit right on the water. And you don't want any long underbelly white fibers. You want to get all those fibers trimmed up nice and short. I'll come back to those. I'm going to move on to the head. And for the head, we use the ears as our stop point. That's our gauge. That's where we want to stop cutting at, and we do not want to cut our ears off. So make sure you are very careful when you're cutting up to them, when you can't see them through the fur. Take it nice and slow. If you have any fibers that you can't seem to get with the razor blade, you can always come in with scissors. And give your head a nice shape. Kind of round it out a little bit. You see, blowing the chunks of hair off. This is a very messy fly, so I would definitely recommend having a vacuum on standby. And we're going to be tying in our whiskers with some UTC thread and 70 denier in the color brown. I start the thread right behind the hook eye. And our whisker material will be a moose body. I got this from Bass Pro Shop. These fibers are very coarse. I like them for whiskers or even antenna for like the cray pattern I did. Excuse me. So I tie in 2 whiskers on the left side and 2 whiskers on the right side. And a half hitch tool is probably going to be your friend here. There's not a whole lot of room to work and hit it with a little bit more zappa gap. Don't go too generous. You don't want a bunch of it sinking into your deer hair like I did here, but you do want it to secure your whiskers in place, so while that's drying you kind of tease your fibers in the position that you want them. Right here I was struggling a bit to cut into the face of the mouse because I had applied a bit too much glue, but I'm carving out some little pockets for the eyes, the contours of the face. And then I use a cauterizing tool. It gets in a little bit deeper, makes the eye socket. And then after you make your eye socket, it makes a nice little spot for your UV resin. And this is a thin hard Solarez thin hard UV resin. This is the first of 2 layers. I do this layer and then zap it. And there's a cool little technique after you zap it. You can wipe it with an alcohol wipe, and it takes away that tackiness that you can get after zapping your UV resin. And after the eyes dry up from the alcohol wipe, you can come in with a black sharpie, color the eyes, and then top it off with a little bit more UV resin, that second layer, and you got some nice realistic beady looking mouse eyes. And there you have it, guys, the Whitlocks Mouserat. I've never done any night fishing for brown trout, like trophy brown trout with mice, but I've just, heard pretty cool stories. So if you guys got one, hit me up in the comments, let me know. I'd like to hear your story. I'm envious of it. I'd really like to take a little trip and do some late night brown trout fishing, but till then I'm just gonna keep tying. If you guys like this video, smash that like button. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. I appreciate you watching. Thanks.